On Savile Row in London, and in the ateliers of Naples, Milan, Florence, and Paris, there is a particular kind of man who walks into a room and quietly commands it, and you will never once be able to identify what he is wearing. There is no logo on his lapel. There is no monogram on his tie. The suit, hand-cut, built on full canvas, fitted to his exact shoulders, is simply correct, in a way that the eye registers before the mind can explain. And here is the part nobody tells you. The reason you cannot name his tailor is not because you haven't been paying attention. It's because the houses that dress real, generational wealth were never meant for you to know. They don't advertise. They don't have flagship stores on Fifth Avenue. Many of them don't have a sign on the door. The brands you can name, the ones with the campaigns, the celebrity front rows, the logos stitched where everyone can see them, those are the brands old money quietly left behind a long time ago. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 bespoke tailoring houses that the wealthiest, most discreet men on earth have used for generations. By the end, the way you look at every luxury suit in a department store is going to change. Let's begin. Number 10. Henry Poole and Company. We start on Savile Row itself at number 15, with the house most people have genuinely never heard of, despite the fact that it more or less invented the thing you call a tuxedo. In 1860, Henry Poole cut a short evening coat for the Prince of Wales, the future Edward VII, and that smoking jacket became the dinner jacket the entire Western world now wears. Poole dressed Napoleon III, Charles Dickens, and enough heads of state to fill a history book. They hold royal warrants, a formal appointment by the British Crown, and one of the oldest marks of trade distinction in existence. And yet, walk down any street and ask 100 well-dressed men to name the founder of the modern tuxedo, and you will get 100 blank stares. That is the first lesson of old money tailoring. The houses with the deepest history are almost always the ones marketing forgot, precisely because they never needed it. Number 9. Steed. Now we leave the shop fronts behind entirely. Steed is a bespoke house built by Edwin du Bois, a cutter trained in the old Anderson and Sheppard tradition, and for most of its existence it operated with no grand premises at all. The way you encounter Steed is not by browsing, it's by appointment, often through what the trade calls a trunk show, where the cutter travels to a hotel suite in New York or Tokyo, measures a standing list of clients, and disappears again. Their specialty is the English drape, a soft, full-chested cut that moves with the body rather than armoring it. The canvassing is entirely hand-stitched, floated away from the chest rather than fused to it, the fundamental difference between a suit that breathes and one that merely looks pressed. You will not find Steed in a glossy magazine spread. You find it the way old money finds everything, through someone who already knows. Number 8. Camps de Luca. Cross to Paris, and you reach a house that tailors regard with something close to reverence. Founded by Joseph Camps and Mario de Luca, Camps de Luca is Parisian bespoke at its most exacting, known for details so refined that other tailors study them. The distinctive fishmouth notch where the lapel meets the collar, the almost architectural balance of the chest. The house cuts from the finest cloth mills in the world, Holland and Sherry, Loro Piana, the great English and Italian weavers, selecting weights and weaves most houses will never handle. The house has won international tailoring competitions. It dresses a client list so private that even within the industry, names are spoken carefully. This is not a brand that wants 10,000 customers. It wants a few hundred of the right ones, served for decades. That is the entire business model, and it is the opposite of everything you've been trained to call luxury. Number 7. Sartoria Dalcuore. We move to Naples now, and here the rules change again. Neapolitan tailoring is softer, lighter, almost unstructured, a jacket that feels like a shirt and drapes like water. The hallmark is the spalla camicia, the shirt sleeve shoulder, gathered and rolled by hand rather than pressed flat. Luigi Dalcuore built one of the city's most respected sartorias on exactly that philosophy. There is no fused canvas, no heavy padding, none of the industrial shortcuts hiding inside the suits sold under famous names. There is a man, a pair of shears, and decades of accumulated skill. The men who wear Dalcuore are not buying a label to show people. They are buying the feeling of a jacket that was built around their exact shoulders and the quiet confidence that comes with it. Number 6. Sartoria Solito. Still in Naples, still almost invisible to the outside world, the Solito name represents 2 generations of Neapolitan cutting, the soft shoulder and the gentle curve that the city perfected over a century. What's important here is not just the craft, it's the discretion. A man could wear Solito to a board meeting full of people in $4,000 designer suits, and he would be the only one in the room wearing something genuinely handmade, cut from a length of Super 120 or Super 150 wool that the other men in the room couldn't identify if they tried, and not a single person would know. That invisibility is not a flaw. For the men who choose these houses, it is the entire point. Number 5. A. Caraceni. Now we arrive in Milan, and at a name that carries genuine weight among the people who actually understand clothes. The Caraceni houses, descended from a single remarkable family of tailors, dressed the true Italian aristocracy of the 20th century. A. Caraceni famously cut for Gianni Agnelli, the chairman of Fiat and the most photographed industrialist of his era, a man so effortlessly elegant that the global fashion industry still studies photographs of him decades later. Agnelli was known to wear his watch over his shirt cuff, to break every rule of dress and to look more correct than the men following every rule precisely. And here is the thing about Agnelli. He could have worn any brand on earth. He had the money and the access to buy anything, Brioni, Kiton, any house on the planet. And he chose a Milanese tailor most people have never heard of. When the most stylish industrialist of the century quietly picks the house with no logo, that tells you everything about where real taste actually lives. Number 4. Liverano and Liverano. Florence now, and one of the last true masters. Antonio Liverano has spent a lifetime perfecting what's known as the Florentine cut, a powerful, rounded shoulder paired with a soft, sculptural chest and a distinctive, generous lapel. The gorge sits high, the lapel rolls naturally, and the whole effect is somehow simultaneously bold and restrained in a way that takes decades to learn. Among serious enthusiasts and collectors, the kind who travel to Pitti Uomo in Florence not to be photographed, but to stand in workshops and ask questions, Liverano is spoken of the way people speak of a great painter. Documentaries have been made about the workshop, and still, outside that small world of people who genuinely know, the name means nothing to the general public. That gap between how revered a house is among experts and how unknown it is to everyone else is the single clearest signal of old money taste you will ever find. Number 3. Rubinacci. Back to Naples, to a house that began in 1932 as something called London House, founded by Gennaro Rubinacci, a man with one of the legendary eyes of the century. Today, led by Mariano Rubinacci, the house guards an archive of rare vintage fabrics, vicuna, Escorial wool, cloth woven in English mills that no longer exist, that simply cannot be bought anywhere else on earth. Cloth woven decades ago, stored and reserved for clients who understand what they're looking at. A Rubinacci suit is not an object you purchase. It is access to a vault of materials and a house pattern that has been refined across 3 generations. New money buys the most expensive thing in the shop. Old money buys the bolt of cloth that no shop has had since 1960. Number 2. Anderson and Sheppard. We return to London, But not quite to Savile Row, Anderson and Sheppard sits just around the corner on Old Burlington Street, and that small geographic modesty tells you something about the house's entire character. This is the home of the English drape, the soft, full, natural-shouldered cut that dressed Fred Astaire, Gary Cooper, and the Duke of Windsor himself. For generations, the most powerful and famous men in the world walked through that door specifically because the house was known for one thing above all others: absolute discretion. No client lists shared, no photographs, no window display shouting names at the street. If you have to ask who they dress, you were never meant to know, and the men who wear them would not have it any other way. And now, number 1, the house that even the other tailors on this list quietly admire. Cifonelli. Founded in Rome in 1880 and established in Paris in 1926, Cifonelli is, to the people who genuinely understand bespoke tailoring, the cutter's cutter, the house other master tailors point to. Their signature is the Cifonelli shoulder, a roped, sculpted sleeve head so technically demanding that very few houses on earth can execute it, blending Roman precision with Parisian flair into something almost impossibly refined. The cloth is sourced from the finest mills, Holland and Sherry, Loro Piana, the rarest weights available, and the construction is entirely hand-stitched canvas from the first basting to the final pressing. Cifonelli does not chase fame. It does not need to. The most knowledgeable, discreet, and wealthy men in the world treat a Cifonelli commission the way collectors treat a private masterpiece, something acquired quietly, worn for decades, and never explained to anyone who has to ask. It is the single clearest answer to the question this entire video has been circling. When a man has access to every brand money can buy, and he chooses the one with no logo, no campaign, and a name you have never heard until this moment, that is not a man buying clothes. That is a man who understands something the marketing was specifically designed to keep from you. So here is what all 10 of these houses have in common, and it's the thing worth remembering long after you've forgotten the names. Not one of them won your attention by accident. They earned the loyalty of generational wealth by doing the exact opposite of everything the visible luxury industry does. No logos, no campaigns, no shouting. Just a cutter, a pattern, hand-stitched canvas built to last 30 years, and a client relationship measured in decades rather than seasons. The brands you can name spent fortunes making sure you'd recognize them. The houses on this list spent a century making sure you wouldn't. And once you understand that difference, you start to see the whole game clearly, that the loudest names in luxury were quietly abandoned by the very people they claim to dress, a long, long time ago. If this changed the way you think about what real money actually wears, you already know what to do. Stay quiet about it. That's rather the point.